At 7 o'clock, the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Manns, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item number 2 is roll call. Mr. Moran is here. Mr. Rathel?
Here.
Mr. Van Oz?
Here.
Mr. Manns?
Here.
Mr. Stoll is excused. Mr. Fulbaum is excused. Third item on the agenda is additions or deletions to the agenda. We've got one addition, which would be action item 7B, and we are adding the approval or an action for the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, between the Crowsville Airport Commerce Park and the Police Department.
Move support with the change of the agenda.
Motion by Mr. Rathel.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Manns. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 4 is the approval of the minutes. And Mike, did you?
Because we had an executive session, there will be no minutes from the last meeting. I do need to, for our next meeting, I'll have the minutes from, I believe it was our July meeting. Before that, I'll have for approval on our next meeting. Apologize, I did not include those in the packet.
Okay, we will skip that item and move on to item number 5, which is our financial report for September 2014. And we are currently now through 50% of our fiscal year. We have a budget of $831,160. Year-to-date revenue is $456,408, which is just under 55% of our budget for the year. Under expenditures, we have a budget of $831,160, and our year-to-date encumbrances and expenditures are $610,056, which is 73% of our budget. So obviously, our expenditures are way ahead, and Mike, we can talk about that when we finish this here. Our capital reserves as of September 30th are $524,014. In our past due rent summary as of October 7th, our past due for 60-plus days is $8,991. And then under pending legal action / settlement plan, we have a past due of $8,689. So with that, Mike, you want to talk about what's driving the expenditures to be at the level they are?
Absolutely. We did not budget for, the main cause is the east side of Hangar 1 project that we started. Was not budgeted in this fiscal year due to, we weren't sure if we were going to continue with or start the project, continue with the project, and the exact cost of it. So what we're going to do is we'll make an adjustment at the end of the year for the expenses spent on that project. It'll come out of this fiscal year's budget. To date, right now we're showing, by these numbers, we're showing $153,648 deficit. $164,247 is what we'll adjust for to date for the east side of Hangar 1 project. That's essentially, I'll show you a breakdown of my manager's report. That's essentially the roof repair, replacement, and the masonry work to date. Those are the bills that we've paid. It's $164,000. And then on top of that, we've spent just a tick over $45,000 on runway repairs. We're responsible for 10% of that, so 90% is going to get reimbursed by the state of Michigan. It's supposed to happen in their November transfer, so we'll have that check, I would say, probably by the end of December. With adding those two items in and making all the adjustments, right now we're showing a positive of $51,757 on our budget once those get taken out.
Do you happen to know what that percentage equals, Mike?
I'm sorry, I did not run that number out.
Okay.
Just some further notes too I can add in there. Fuel inventory, the 100 low lead is currently, we just ordered a load 2 weeks ago. It's $46,704. The Jet A is $7,786. Moving over to the past due rent summary, the Payette emergency vehicles there has been removed. It's paid in full as of Friday last week. The PAPKey tenant, that's our tie-down aircraft that's been out there for several years and has not flown. as it looks right now, I've reached an agreement with that tenant. We're going to split payment plan, half this month, which he did pay, and half next month, and we'll remove the boot that's currently restricting that vehicle's movement. His intent is to get it in a fair condition to try to sell it. He has a lot, in my opinion, quite a bit of work to do on it, and especially if it intends to fly, we're going to have to get airworthiness certificates and maintenance records up to date and things like that. But to date, I've received half of that payment. Next month, we'll look out for the next half. And then on the pending legal action settlement plan, we have big news. We received a payment from Dan Scrozil for $100 through our collection agency. Of course, 60 of that comes to us, $40 goes to the collection agency for their time and fees. So we are seeing some movement, but next to none.
So Mike, this is Dan Scrozil. Thought I saw they were in business over on Macomb Street, but they actually had a lease here, and then they left the township facility here at the airport, and they had, what was the outstanding balance they left us with?
$5,215.35, as well as some damages to the walls left in the facility from removing mirrors and carpeting.
So they basically skipped out on $5,000 of lease responsibility here at the airport,
Correct.
and they went over, they're down somewhere on Macomb Street, and they're still in business.
Correct.
And I'm assuming they're paying someone else rent. Okay. So they walked on the township for $5,200.
But Dan Scrozil paid us $100 of the $5,000 they owe us through a collection agent.
Correct.
Wow, that's pretty nice of them. All right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions on the financial report? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Athel. Support by Mr. Van Oz. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is item number 6, which is our manager's report. 6A is the east side of Hangar 1 project update. Mike?
Included in your packets is a updated construction cost spreadsheet I ran. As of last week, we've completed the environmental abatement, everything in the project, so we're processing the payment now. You can see there the final cost was $57,390. I included in there the window and door bid that we have on the agenda tonight. With those 3 items, that will essentially make the building what I'll term weather tight. We'll have a new roof, new windows and doors, and masonry that's not allowing water to penetrate it. You can see to date we've spent, with the approval of the window and doors bid and environmental abatement cost, $298,000, $298.22. The brownfield contribution out of our TIF brownfield fund there that we approved is $57,390. So our total retained earnings expense to date on that project is $240,632. Below that is our engineering project management breakdown from CE Rains Company. I have it at $17,871. That's including some bills that I have sitting on my desk currently. We've paid out $11,000 total so far.
Mike, I have a question on that.
Yes.
Under the engineering cost for the environmental abatement of $6,775, is that not eligible for brownfield?
From what I recall, it's not, but I will double check on that for you.
Could you, it seems to me like that those are eligible costs, but I can't be sure.
I think you may be right, Ron.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Athel.
Mike, we have on the masonry engineering of $7,000. Can you give me an idea of what type of engineering we needed to just basically do, what do they call it, tuck pointing on the brick?
We had some additional costs in there that I classified as masonry. What we have too is we've had to do, have done quite a bit of engineering also in the 2 pits that are in front of the facilities, trying to figure out the sewer systems that run through those 2 pits. There's old sump systems that are no longer working. We're trying to figure out the easiest route to replace those, and the cheapest method to do it. So there's a lot of other masonry, what I've termed masonry costs that have gone into that. It's not solely just the tuck pointing. We did have to redo all the columns on the building as well, so there was some structural integrity I-beam work that we wanted them to review. So we rolled a lot of other costs into that. It's not strictly just for
Okay.
reviewing the specs on the tuck pointing.
Okay, thank you.
And following that is just really the breakdown of the payments, the actual checks that have been cut, you can see to date.
Is Raines doing any, I see under that one category, it says engineering/project management. Are they doing construction observation as well?
Yes, we've had them out for several, kind of like halfway marks on the roof and the masonry, making sure everything is up to par and up to standard.
And that's part of the $7,000, right?
Correct, correct.
Any questions for Mike on the project update on Hangar 1? Hearing none, we will move on to item number 6B, which is the Alpaca Farm Insurance Update. I see we've got some pictures here, but Mike, do you want to give us a summary?
Last month, the Alpaca Farm began to get its winter shipments of hay in like it does every year. They loaded, this is the loft on the south side of the complex. They started stacking the hay about 4 or 5 high. Halfway through loading the loft, it collapsed. Luckily, no one was injured. 2 of the alpacas did get trapped, but they were rescued and freed, medical treatment, but everyone survived, minor injuries. It caused a significant amount of damage. It pulled the entire loft away from the wall and collapsed the floor. It's mostly basic framing. The airport and township insure the building. They carry the liability insurance for their business there. We had our traveler's insurance out. They did to do the claim. They had the replacement cash value at $21,891.78, less our $2,500 deductible. The issue we're seeing here is when the building was built, the north side of that loft sits on 6x6s, very sturdy, supported. It looks like there was either negligence or just mismanagement on the construction, that the south half of the loft was toe-nailed into the wall. It was not supported by 6x6s. That's what we had an engineer come out through Travelers and review this. So it didn't seem like it was up to the standard at the time or designed to hold that weight. So the repair bill that we've got is basically to repair the southeast side of this loft to hold the weight that was up there, which is basically stacking hay to the rafters you see there in the pictures. The other issue we're going to run into is this only repairs what was damaged. The west side will remain toe-nailed into the wall and not be able to support the weight. So the tenant's going to have to reinforce the other side of that loft in order to load it all the way up.
Mike, do you know if those improvements were made through the permit process through the building department back whenever it was done?
It was.
It was?
Yes,
So-
and they had a separate claim through Travelers where they're looking at going after the contractor separately.
What year was that built?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I think it was 90s. I'm not sure. I have to pull the
I
exact
think it was
paperwork.
later than that.
Mike, I'm not sure I understand. If a permit was pulled and inspections happened, and I'm assuming inspections were approved, then it must have been built per whatever code was in place at the time.
What we're also reviewing is that there's normally a different set of rules for agricultural purpose than there is for residential or commercial. So that's where we're trying to weed through what happened there.
Okay. So I'm just assuming that if the right permits were pulled and the right inspections happened, that it was done per whatever code was in place at the time, but I guess maybe that's what needs to be determined.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions for Mike on the Alpaca update? Hearing none, we'll move on to our action items, which is item 7. Our first one is the bid award for the east side of Hangar 1 windows and doors. And before us, we have a resolution that reads, based upon a recommendation from the Airfield Commerce Park manager, The Groseal Airport Commerce Park Commission hereby awards the east side of Hangar 1 windows and doors contract to Rochester Hills Contracting Glazing at a project cost not to exceed $76,385, plus a 10% contingency of $7,638.
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Van Oz,
Support.
support by Mr. Mans. Mike, anything you want to add to what we have in our packet here?
Just kind of, again, following up with that, this is our last step to really make the building what I would term weather tight. We received 2 bids back. I was happy to see they were very close together. I think we're getting a good value. My intention with this bid, and again, I worked with the township engineers on the specs and the awarding it, is really to have that facility match or be very similar to Township Hall's appearance in the aluminum color, the tint of the windows, the low E grade, things like that. The only difference I really change I made versus the township specs were I've put into the bid for 3 windows to open for some ventilation. I've noticed in this building on the second floor, when you get in this building midday, it gets very warm on the second floor. None of the windows open to get some airflow. So we included that, and there was $495 per window to open.
Was that the whole lower part of the window or just a piece inside?
I believe it's like a middle vent of, it's probably 50% of the window in the center would slide outward.
Okay.
I do believe, I'll double check, I do believe they come with screens there too.
And Mike, I noticed that there was an alternate that was asked for vinyl versus aluminum, and the one bidder didn't bid that. Was that bid just to get an idea as to, just in case the aluminum was too expensive, that we'd have to go with the vinyl?
Correct, and the second bidder didn't bid it because they didn't feel like it was the best material for the project. They liked the aluminum better.
Mr. Chair, one comment.
Mr. Van Oz.
This was already brought before the township board on last meeting, and pending our approval, it moves forward. They approved it.
Township board approved this?
Pending our approval.
Pending the commission approval, the reason we did that is to get the project moving along quicker, so we don't have.
I was receiving some pressure from some people, and
Oh, yeah.
there were a few members of the commission that wanted this done.
Any other comments or questions?
Wonder where that could be.
We have a motion. Motion was by Mr. Athel, supported by Mr. Van Oz, right? Mr. Mans.
Mr. Van Oz and Mr. Mans.
Sorry about that. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item that we added to the agenda is item number 7B, which is the memorandum of understanding between the Groseal Airport and the Groseal Police Department. And this has to do with the leasing of 3,600 square feet of space at 9610 Grow Road, which is the east side of the building in Hangar 1. And it is for terms and conditions for the police department to lease that space. And the final negotiations will happen between the Commerce Park Commission and the police department.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rathel. Support by Mr. Mans. Are we going to approve it as is, or do we want to add a time frame to it?
I'm sure Mr. Van Oss will work with the chief to expedite this by the end of the month.
Any further discussion? Motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is item number 8, which is our subcommittee reports, and we have a report on the AOPA event submittal fast track. Mike?
Those are 2 separate items I'll walk through, and Carl can fill any gaps in that I miss. We held an Airport Advisory Committee meeting on September 29th. The committee and I had worked together for the last couple of weeks here. AOPA came out with requests for proposals. They do what's called a regional fly-in I believe they did about 5 or 6 throughout the country last year. Their proposals were going out for 2015. We really wanted to get our name in the hat. We think this is a perfect airport to host at. We have a lot of ramp space. We have a very beautiful community here and a supportive pilot group on the field. So we did submit for that. On average, I just wanted to give you the gist of it. On average, the event can bring in 2,500 people, 450 aircraft, and 900 cars. We submitted for July or August of the 2015 year. They shortlist in November and then make their decisions. If we do get approval, we have 15 days that we're given to turn around and give a yes or a no, basically, once we're chosen, and we'll be accepting the event. Really entails it's just a one-day fly-in with a large amount of aircraft. We do like a big cookout events. AOPA does tents and avionics and things like that. So it's just a general aviation gathering for the region. But it would definitely bring in a huge amount of aircraft fuel sales, and I think be very good for our airport.
And Mike, what's the criteria that they use in order to award it to a community?
It's based on a lot of different factors, really. I mean, ramp space, basically, your accommodations is big. A lot of airports don't have ramp space like we have, or big-sized, large hangars like this one that's 40,000 square feet to host these events. So they're looking for, accommodations size-wise. They're looking for, what we're willing to contribute. We said we'd kick in some food and tents and rentals and things like that if awarded. And really just location. They look for a pretty airport that'll be fun for a lot of pilots to visit too. They look for, what's the pilot base? Are we going to get a good turnout for the area? We have a lot of pilots in Ohio, Michigan, and Illinois, and the Great Lakes area that we think would turn out. So that's kind of a lot of their criteria. The couple of issues we have applying, I would say, that are ticks against us, or that we're close to the Class Bravo airspace, which is over Metro Airport. That kind of makes a little bit of a restriction point. I know that can be add some tensions to flying in, and the closeness to the Canadian airspace. But those two factors are really the only thing that are, I would say, notches against us. But other than that, I think we're the perfect airport to host this event.
And do we actually submit like a proposal to them, or?
We did,
just-
yes.
okay.
Again, the committee and I had met a couple of times, and the members and I had met a couple of times, put a proposal together and submitted it. Just before that September 29th meeting, we reviewed it.
Okay.
What were the dates of the event again?
They were basically looking for any Saturdays, and they were looking at it for peak season when, the least chance of storms are, which our summer can be kind of totally weather dependent on the week. But we put in for July or August. They asked for a couple of Saturdays. I think we picked 2 or 3 Saturdays available in July and a couple in August. So we left it pretty flexible depending on their schedules.
Any other questions for Mike? If not, what's the update on Fast Track?
Just an update on that. If you remember, we had some complaints, especially one of our commission meetings previously. We did have a discussion at the committee level. The direction that kind of came out of it was we wanted to get more of a feel for the complaints that were coming in. So we directed the chairperson to discuss a little more with the township board on the complaints that came in, and bring it back to the committee and make a decision from there. The vibe I think we were getting at the committee level and from the residents that were complaining about the Sunday event that we did was that everyone seems to be okay with the event at Island Fest that we have, which is a 2 or 3 day event. They're okay because there's so much noise generation and activity at the airport already that they're used to it. But really any other additional weekend event is just too much of a noise burden on our nearby neighbors. So they're going to kind of pull the township board and some other members in the area and kind of get more of a feel for the complaints that came in and bring it back to the committee for a decision or recommendation.
I think if I remember, the one gentleman that was here indicated that it went on longer into the day
Correct.
than it did normally. So I think that was another one of the issues that he had.
Yep. The only other aspect we had looked at on possibility of holding the events were once in a while Fast Track will have an opportunity to do a corporate event that would be during the week. So we looked at the possibility of holding one maybe on like a Tuesday from 8 to 5 or something where more of the neighbors are not for example, enjoying dinner on their patio or something, more or people are at work and it'll be less of a disturbance. So we're looking into some other alternate options that will keep the public coming down to the airport and revenue coming in.
Good. Keep us updated on those discussions. Next item on the agenda is item number 9, which is discussion items, which I think we have none tonight.
Oh, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Raythel.
There was a discussion on sort of a commerce commission taking a look at leases throughout the island, having a commission that would be basically a commerce commission to alleviate some of the stress off of some other areas of the township that have a commission that's sort of charged to create activities, not so much generate revenue through leases. Has that conversation been ongoing? I've been hearing some things that there's some discussions, but I'm just wondering if you had any input, or was there anybody approach our group outside of?
No, I've not had any discussion with anybody. Not at all. Mike, you hearing anything?
No, at this time.
Ted, you, no?
I just, the last time this issue was brought up was pretty sensitive. And I would think that if we're going to do that, it would have to be completely separate from the Airport Commerce Park Commission as a whole. But I'm not sure that there's enough tenant activity out there outside of Commerce Park to even make it worthwhile. But I have heard nothing. Nobody's come to me with.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, the Airport Commerce Park Commission isn't perceived as a group going out looking for more activities, but I know that the conversation has taken place somewhere in the township. I just want to make sure that this group sort of, you know, is aware of it, but stands, you know, resolved of managing the airport and the Commerce Park.
Yep, I've had no discussion with anyone. Okay, moving on to the next item, which is Chairman's report. I have nothing new to report tonight. Item number 11 is the public comment. Carl, you have anything?
Fill in any gaps I missed?
AOPA is a large organization, Airplane Owners and Pilots Association. And over the years, that group has kind of had just a regional, they'll put it in Texas, Philadelphia, or wherever. And they felt that they've lost a lot of their membership because they haven't come into where the membership is. I mean, they go and fly to Texas or to Philadelphia or wherever. So now they're kind of breaking it up into about 5 or 6 units a year so they can get to the major population of their membership. That's what it boils down to. This thing, when they do that, it's probably going to be a little bit smaller than it has been on a national scale. It's going to be more on a local scale. We would fit in there perfectly, and I think it would give us some exposure. And possibly other things that can come out of this, we could probably even push it farther to get, you know, get this airport kind of a little bit more going, so to speak. And that's basically what they're trying to do, and I think it's a good thing for us, you know. I don't think we're going to get that kind of volume, but if it happened, I'd be tickled to death.
We're happy with anything that you can do for us as it relates to promoting it, and
Yeah.
if we need to lobby or make calls or whatever, let us know.
Yep.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:30. Motion by Ms. Vanaz, supported by Mr. Mans. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries.